This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could, please as well, give us a 5-star rating or ask us a review. Be very appreciated, very helpful. Let us see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And there were definitely a few interesting NFL games for us to discuss. Obviously, there was other interesting stuff that happened this weekend as well. Some college football stuff. There was a fight. There's another fight that got announced, so that's fun. Obviously, college basketball stuff. And on that side, we'll talk about more of like what isn't happening and how, like, again, hopefully they learn or like take some things from like college football, because like they're gonna have it, but like a lot worse because it's like inside. But yeah, so like I said, first we'll start with the NFL slate. As you guys know, there are still 3 games left to be played this week. Oh, well, maybe only like 2 by the time you guys are hearing this. Because you should be hearing this on Monday. So that, like the 5 o'clock game, the first Pittsburgh and Washington, that one might already be going on by the time you're hearing this. But then you got the late Monday night game, Bills, Niners, then obviously you got Ravens, Cowboys on Tuesday. So like I said, games aren't done. I still got some ways to go. But of the games that are done, the first one, well, I don't, actually, yeah, you know what, the first one I will touch on, because we'll start with the AFC side of things. First one I want to touch on is this Browns-Titans game. Only because this, as we kind of talked about on the last podcast, was going to be a true test for the Browns. A test for the Titans too, obviously, but again, they're a little bit more tested. They faced a few other good teams and had some good matchups. Like obviously they faced the Colts already, beat the Ravens. They faced the Steelers, lost that game close. So like I said, they had already faced a couple of good teams as opposed to the Browns. Had faced the Steelers, lost, and got smoked. Had faced the Ravens and gotten smoked. Obviously, they beat the Colts, that was their lone real win against a good team. And obviously, they lost to the Raiders, who almost lost to the Jets today. We'll talk about that in a second. So like I said, this was going to be a real test for them, you could argue, again, just to see kind of where they're at and if they are legit. And in that first half, the Browns showed, and Baker showed, and like that whole offense, and even the defense, because the Titans really couldn't do anything in that first half. They showed they're legit. Like I said, that 8-3, whatever you want to call it, wasn't a fluke. It's every bit as real, and that was evident by their 31-point lead at halftime. Like I said, obviously the Titans came back and made a bit of a game, technically. Obviously, after the touchdown, like 30 seconds left, they had a chance to get the onside kick and then maybe potentially go in and win the game. So, like I said, they still had a chance. But again, it was a very little time. But regardless, that didn't really matter because they dug themselves too deep into a hole that if they hadn't, then maybe they could have crawled out of it earlier. Like I said, the Browns were hitting on all cylinders. Baker had 4 touchdowns in the first half. Like almost 300 yards, ended the day with 344, only 4 touchdowns, still ended the day over 300 yards. Like I said, they were up 38-7 at the end of the first half. Like I said, just completely put it on the Titans. I'm not saying the Titans were unprepared because that's like disrespectful. I don't know. But like I said, when you go in your first drive, you go for it on 4th down, and you try to go Derrick Henry up the middle, doesn't work. Then the Browns go, like, granted. So the Browns get a field goal first. Again, you come out, go for it on 4th down, don't get it. Then the Browns get a touchdown. Then the first play, you fumble, Derrick Henry fumbles. Then the next time you go for a touch, then the next time the Browns get the ball, they have a touchdown. So again, the Browns have had the ball 3 times, scored every time, and you're down 17-0 before, like, by the start of the second quarter, like the first play in the second quarter, they score the touchdown to the tackle on the tackle eligible pass. Like I said, by the beginning of the second quarter, you're down 17-0. You come back, score a touchdown, cool. But then, like I said, the Browns come right back at the one play, 75-yard drive, nice little play action deep shot. I think they went on the out and up to Donovan Peoples-Jones. And like I said, 75 yards, touchdown. The Titans come back, go 3 and out immediately. And then the Browns come back and drive again, score another touchdown. And like I said, the Titans go 3 and out again. And then the Browns come back, score another touchdown. And then the Titans kind of drop the ball. They get into Hail Mary territory. They don't really throw the Hail Mary. And then they fumble. A.J. Brown fumbled anyway, so it didn't really matter. So like I said, it's like that. Their defense had no answers for anything the Browns threw at them in the first half, especially in the passing game. And then from the offensive standpoint for the Titans, they just couldn't get anything going. Like I said, it's one thing where you can your defense is playing well, so all right, you can, if you go 3 and out, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But again, when you're at a situation where the defense was clearly gassed, clearly was struggling, to just go multiple drives, even their touchdown drive was only 4 plays. Like I said, their defense was just out on the field constantly in that first half. So like I said, even when the Titans, they got to go in a little bit. They scored 2 touchdowns right off the bat, and then the Browns came back to get a field goal. So then the biggest play or the biggest drive of the game was when the Titans were driving. Like I said, they're down 20 at the time, but it's still in the third quarter. You still have the whole quarter to go, and 25 seconds left. Tannehill tries to throw a pass to Adam Humphries. It goes off his hands. It gets picked off. And like I said, that was more or less, you could argue, the difference in the game. Like, if they get points there on that drive, when, like I said, the way they had been moving the ball, if they get a touchdown, then, like I said, maybe the end of the game is different. You don't know. So that's kind of the tough part there. Like I said, the Browns did so well early on that even though they basically did nothing the entire second half, it didn't really matter at the end of the day. Like I said, it still gave the Titans a shot, but like I said, it really didn't make a difference. So like I said, shout out to the Browns. Quality win, good win, impressive win, and now they are, I believe, the 5th seed in the conference. Well, they have the 3rd best record in the conference at the moment, but obviously because they're behind the Steelers, who lead the division, they are the 5th seed. So again, shout out to them. They secured their first non-losing record in 13 or something. It's in over a decade. Let me just put it that way. I don't know the exact number. And like I said, they're looking very likely just to end that long playoff drought, assuming they just don't completely collapse down the stretch. Which, again, not impossible because it's the Browns, but when you got the Ravens, the Giants... Well, okay, let me not say that. Because you got the Ravens, the Giants, the Jets, and the Steelers in their last 4 games. The Giants clearly are a team improving. The Ravens, we'll see where they're looking like next week. Or this week on Tuesday, and then they play them next Monday night. The Steelers, we already know what they are. But again, by that point, who knows if they may be resting guys, trying to get guys right, because obviously they've had some injuries, especially on the defense. You don't want to... Obviously, you want to try to knock your division rival out the playoffs if you can, but also you want to make sure you're healthy for the playoffs. So we'll see about them. But again, if the Chiefs keep winning, they kind of have to win in order to, again, make sure that they get the number 1 seed. And then you got the Jets, who almost beat the Raiders today, so there's that. So, like I said, they still got 4 games left, still got to see what they can do, but like I said, Browns, shout out to them for getting the dub. Speaking of the Chiefs were in a tight one. One of the many games this weekend that was surprisingly tight. Like I said, the Broncos got off to a really good start, and their defense especially got off to a really good start. They were batting down Mahomes' pass. They were forcing them into field goals instead of touchdowns, which is a very hard thing to do against the Chiefs. Is normally, again, they're scoring touchdown. Even though they were moving the ball, the Chiefs didn't have a problem moving the ball. Mahomes threw for over 300. Travis Kelce had over 130 yards receiving. So like I said, moving the ball was not the issue. It was just that they couldn't get in the end zone. So like I said, they had to settle for 3 short field goals in the first half. 35-yarder, 24-yarder, and a 23-yarder. So like I said, they were down 10-9 at halftime, but again, it wasn't so much like they had been dominated, just that they just couldn't execute in the red zone. That was really their big issue. And then the Broncos, like I said, their offense really didn't do all that much, and it continued to not do all that much in the second half. Plus, Drew Lock still did the thing he likes to do where he turns the ball over some. No, he did that to start the game, and it didn't really cost him. But the second time, that lost him the game, obviously, on the last drive where he threw the interception. I believe it was on 4th and 5. Tried to throw it deep to Jerry Jeudy and ended up getting picked off because clearly he did not see Honey Badger waiting there because Jerry Jeudy was open. Like I said, if Tyrann Mathieu's not there. So the issue was Tyrann Mathieu was there. But like I said, the Broncos offense is what it is. They really didn't do a whole lot. They just were like kind of moving the ball and kind of holding the ball. Like I said, they went on a 12-play field goal drive. They went on a 7-play 90-yard touchdown drive. And like I said, the defense was doing a good job early. But again, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're going to get big plays. They're going to eventually figure things out. And once it kind of took the touchdown, once they got the Travis Kelce touchdown and take the lead, you kind of thought that, all right, yeah, this is Broncos. It's been fun, but like, all right, the Chiefs going to win now. And again, it was still close because like I said, the Chiefs couldn't do a whole lot offensively in terms of scoring touchdowns. They ended up getting another field goal there late. With like I think it was like with like a minute and 12 left. Yeah, they tried to minute 4 left. Excuse me, because the minute 12 that was the delay of game. That wasn't a delay of game. That again, I don't know if somebody from Vegas put a call in and was like, hey, the Broncos I think were like plus 5.5. And, like, obviously, if the kicker missed the field goal, then there's a good chance that holds. So, like I said, I don't know, but it was very odd because he clearly had 1 second left on the play clock. And, like, that's normally a thing that you're usually late on as opposed to early. I've never seen anybody be early on a delay of game call before. Obviously, tried to, I don't know, directly, indirectly ice the kicker. It didn't matter because Butker is a good kicker. But yeah, shout out to the Broncos. Like I said, gave them a good fight. They ran the ball extremely well. Melvin Gordon was really good in this game. Had 131 yards on the ground by himself. So like I said, he was great. They ran the ball well. But at the end of the day, you have to score to keep up with the Chiefs, and they could not score. Plus, like I said, Drew Lock had a couple costly interceptions, and that was all she wrote. Like I said, shout out to them for keeping it close. Speaking of someone keeping it close, the Chargers did not keep it close at all with the Patriots. I don't know what happened really in that one. Well, I know what happened. The special teams let them down. It was actually atrocious because they gave up a punt return touchdown. They gave up a blocked field goal touchdown. Like I said, Justin Herbert, had easily his worst game as a pro. But again, it's not surprising. Belichick normally does really well against young quarterbacks, if I remember correctly. Like he very rarely loses, things like that. And again, this was nothing new. So like I said, he 26 of 53, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns because they had 0 points. So like I said, it was just a tough. But again, when you're down 28-0, and you get you try to drive in a field goal range, and you get the field goal blocked and get it returned as time expires, 10.5, that kind of shows it's not really your day. So yeah, Cam didn't really even have to do that much. I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, but passing was 12 of 19 for 69 yards and a touchdown. Like he didn't really do a whole lot. But I said you don't have to when you get multiple special team scores. Like yeah, you take it as is what it is. So like I said, shout out to the Patriots because now they're still in the thick of things in the playoff race, which is kind of surprising thinking back where they were at a month ago. But they're 6-6 now. So like I said, if the Ravens lose, like, hey, they're right there. They're right there. And like I said, the Raiders are only 7-5. And then I think the Colts, Dolphins, and Titans are all 8-4. So like I said, it's going to take a little bit of work and take a little bit of help. But again, the Patriots aren't out, which is not something you expected to be saying a couple weeks ago. And speaking of the Raiders, we got to talk about this epic tank loss. I mean, if you didn't, like, if you told me straight up that, the Jets aren't trying to tank, like, they're not trying to lose, like, they're definitely going out there competing, things like that, I would believe you, but also you'd have to explain to me how they lost this game. Because the Jets had no reason to lose this game at all. Like I said, they literally had it won. They had it won. They were playing well all game outside of the fact that they couldn't cover Darren Waller. But, like, still, everything else was solid. Sam played solid enough at the 1 interception, but still played solid enough. Ty Johnson came out of nowhere to have 100 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Crowder had 2 touchdowns. And like I said, they had the game won. They bottled up the run game. And I said the other receivers, I mean, Henry Ruggs' numbers look kind of skewed because of the long touchdown. But, like, other than that, like, they had the game won. They got the defensive stop on the drive before the fatal drive, obviously. They turned the Raiders over on downs on 4th and 3. And, he tried to throw it to Aguilar, did not work. And like I said, they got the stop. There's like a minute and 42 left. Obviously, the Raiders have 2 of their 3 timeouts. So they call 2 of them. Obviously, the Jets just try to run it out. They don't get it. They're forced to punt. So the Raiders get the ball back with 35 seconds left on their own 39-yard line. And mind you, Derek Carr does not have the strongest line. So like I said, you know they got to get a decent amount of yards to even be in Hail Mary territory because they were down 28-24 at the time after, like I said, the Ty Johnson touchdown that put the Jets ahead with like 5 minutes left. So like I said, Raiders get the ball, get a short pass to Darren Waller, come down, spike it. They try to throw a deep pass to Aguilar. It goes incomplete, but Aguilar was open. So you were like, oh, okay, we screwed that up. But like, we won't screw that up again, right? Like, you're just like, oh, that's our bad. We messed that up. Let's make sure we get it right the next time. Then, for whatever reason, something got explained to me, other than like maybe someone someone from above put a call down and was like, we need to lose this game, guys. Greg Williams decides he's going to set all out blitz on the Hail Mary. Now, I get it to a degree. Because, again, you don't want you dealing with the guy to have enough time to have routes develop down the field. Because, again, on the type of plays, you got to hold the ball long and let them get down the field. Things like that. So if you get it out of his hands quicker, they have no timeouts left. There's I think there's like 20 seconds left or 19 seconds left at the time. We take that back. It's somewhere under 20 seconds left. I don't know the official time, but it's somewhere under 20 seconds left. So, there's not that much time for them to do anything, really. It's like, all right, I get it to a degree, but like, you don't need to send like everybody. I think they sent at least like 7. And they sent like 7. I think they had one guy's kind of like a spy or whatever. And then they had the other guys manned up. So that meant that rookie Lamar Jackson from Nebraska was manned up with Henry Ruggs, so it's 4.22 speed. I don't know how fast Lamar Jackson is, but I doubt he has 4.22 speed. And for whatever reason, he's not playing 20 yards off the ball. He's playing like at the first down marker. And Ruggs is like a little stutter go. And for whatever reason, he kind of falls for like the stutter as if like Henry Ruggs was going to come back for like a curl or an out route on like 10 yards or whatever when they need like a lot more yards to get into Hail Mary range. And lets him get beat deep. Lets him get behind him. And then once Henry Ruggs was behind him, it was over. Like, Derek Carr had enough time to throw the ball literally like straight up in the air. Henry Ruggs just like would just put his head down, ran, and just like looked up and just ran under the ball. And they scored. And like I said, the Raiders hold on to win a game that they had no business winning. Just like the Jets lost the game for that, and that they obviously should have lost it for the tank. But like, they had no business losing this game. None. They had it won. Like, literally just play deep. Don't let the guys get behind you. That's the only way you can lose. Especially the play before they got beat deep and Derek Carr just missed the throw. Like, Aguilar was open and he just didn't hit him. So like I said, you see that and you're like, all right, we got lucky. Let's not do that again. And what did they do? Did it again, but this time worse. I don't even know how it's possible. Like I said, shout out to the Jets, because that right there was impressive. Like I said, very few teams would lose in that manner the way the Jets did. I guess outside of maybe the Saints. Shout out to sorry Saints fans to rehash bad memories, but like the Raiders needed a literal miracle to pull that game out, and they got it because the Jets apparently don't care about trying to win a game here in 2020. I didn't see the press conferences, but I heard that Adam Gase was at a loss for words on how you lost. So again, there's no real explanation for it. Like, Greg Williams got to explain that to me. Like, I'm 5. Like, how do you call the all-out blitz? Like, I get it. Blitz like 5, maybe 6. But you need to have someone deep giving the corners help, A. Or B, don't have the corners playing to where they could potentially get beat deep. Like, again, especially since Lamar Jackson's like a young guy, they tell him, you got Henry Ruggs one-on-one, which is stupid, but whatever. Do not let him get behind you. Don't, if he breaks but in front of you and he catches the pass, hey, just rally and tackle. That's all you gotta do. Don't let him get behind you. The one thing he couldn't have happened. The Jets lose. Like I said, of all the games, that was definitely one of the wildest. And definitely one of the most intriguing that we're going to have all season, like I said, even though it involved a winless team. That game was nuts. The end of that game was nuts. I still don't understand how the Jets lost. Even all these hours later, I still have no idea how the Jets found a way to lose a game. That, again, their fans wanted them to lose. Because, again, you can't. The Jags were lost, obviously. They were trying to win, too. But they lost, obviously. So, you couldn't really afford a loss there now because now you guys are tied. And like I said, I don't know if the tiebreaker would have been. Maybe now you drop down to 2 and instead of getting Trevor Lawrence, you get Justin Fields. Which, again, not a bad thing. Justin Fields looked very good this weekend. While Trevor Lawrence looked a little. But again, it is what it is. Now, you're not going to have a great game every week. As evidenced by Justin Fields not having a good game a couple weeks ago. Like I said, you couldn't afford to lose that game. For the tank. In real life, I don't know how you don't win that game, but for the tank, you needed to lose. So like I said, that is easily going to go down as one of the greatest tank losses I've ever seen in my life. Like a game the team isn't supposed to win, shouldn't win, is about to win, but then doesn't. Like I said, only the Jets. Only the freaking Jets. So like I said, after we come back, we'll switch over, talk about the NFC side of things, obviously. We touched on the AFC a lot. Got a couple of good, interesting games on the NFC slate as well. So we'll just talk about them right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back. Here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast. So, we will start with, like I said, you could argue that the Browns, at least the way in which they won their game, just like the absolute domination, not the fact that they couldn't have won, because they could have won, but I think they said they dominated the Titans in the first half. You could argue was the biggest surprise on the AFC side of things. On the NFC side of things, easily, the biggest surprise of the day was the Giants taking down the Seahawks in Seattle with Colt McCoy at the helm. The Giants won their game, mainly on the backs of their defense, but they definitely stunned Seattle 17-12. Like I said, a very low-scoring game, a very weird game. They got the Seahawks didn't really do much offensively. They were up 5-0 at half. Like I said, and as we talked about on this podcast, the Seahawks don't play one game that's like relatively normal. Like generally speaking, all their games are like kind of weird, and a lot of them go down to the wire for like no apparent reason, and like they're always in like relatively close games, even with opponents that they should be a lot better than. It's like always like a weird situation. But like I said, anyone that's watched the Seahawks play in the last couple years is not surprised that this game was close. Maybe surprised that the Seahawks lost, which I think that's fair to say. But the fact that this game was close, not really all that surprising. They generally play down to the level of their competition or play up to the level of their competition. It's a very weird situation. Like I said, offensively in the first half, nothing was really getting done. The Seahawks came out in their first drive, got a field goal, but like after that, it was punts, and like I think they fumbled one time. Russell Wilson fumbled. And then, like I said, they got the safety on the punt block, which was, that's embarrassing. But still, they got the safety. And so, like I said, they're up 5-0. The Giants really haven't done a whole lot in the half. Like I said, a bunch of punts and one interception. by Colt McCoy inside the red zone. I think that went off of Ingram's hands, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. Or I guess I just know Evan Ingram was involved somehow in that play. So like I said, that's not anything new. The Giants, and especially Daniel Jones, had turned the ball over in the red zone in the past, in the past, obviously. I meant like during the season. So that is not new, but again, still not good. So like I said, it's 5-0 at half. The Giants are finally able to score a touchdown on their second drive of the game after a long run by Wayne Gallman, a 60-yard run to get them set up. 2 plays later, Alfred Morris powers it in, and they get the 2-point conversion. So like I said, now they're up 8-5, which again, weird score, but whatever. So you also have the ball next. They try to go for it on 4th and 1. It's incomplete. And the Giants get the ball back. Drive down the field again. This time, 5 plays, 48 yards. And it's Alfred Morris, a pass from Colt McCoy to Alfred Morris for a touchdown. So shout out to Alfred Morris, doing all the scoring today, even though, like I said, Wayne Gallman did the bulk of the work. He had 16 for 135. Obviously, the 60-yarder helped, but still, outside of that, he was still very good. Colt McCoy didn't really do all that much, didn't really have to do all that much. And like I said, the defense just stifled the Seahawks completely. They sacked Russ 5 times, which again, their line isn't that great, but still 5 sacks. For the Giants, they don't really have the greatest pass rush. It's still pretty impressive. Leonard Williams continues his great season. He had 2.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, 2.5 tackles for loss. So, like I said, him playing on the franchise tag, smartest thing he's ever done. And is also going to maybe save Dave Gettleman's job. Because before the season, his career high in sacks was 7 in 2016. And like I said, he's at 8.5 now through 12 games, and that's with 4 games left to go. So him getting double-digit sacks is a very, very real possibility in a contract year. So again, shout out to him. Because like I said, he's been playing great for the Giants this season. Like I said, the defense as a whole just played very solid. They got an interception off Russ. Nothing. What was it? That was in the second half. Yeah, second half. That was right. It was with early, 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They got an interception off of him. I think it was off of a deflection, if I remember correctly. But still, interception's an interception. You can't really knock that. Allowed the Giants to kick a field goal. And then, of course, because Seattle's going to make it closer, it came down the next drive, scored a touchdown. So it's 17-12 now. The Giants have to punt, but they are able to get the Seahawks once again turned over on downs. They got backed up. The Seahawks did after another sack. This one, another one by Leonard Williams. With 50 seconds left, they had to call a timeout, and then basically just threw a Hail Mary to try to see if they can get the first down and go from there. But they weren't able to. It was knocked down. And the Seahawks lose. So like I said, the Giants are now, depending on what happens in Washington, because that's really going to be the story. But as of this moment right now, they are 2 games up on the Eagles. They're a game up on the. I guess technically they're like a half game up on Washington. Excuse me. I know they're 2 games up, or 2 games up on the Eagles, more or less. But they're a half game up on Washington because Washington hasn't played yet. So if they lose, then they'll be a full game up in the division with 4 to play. Now, the Giants have to play the Cardinals, have to play the Browns, have to play the Ravens, have to play the Cowboys again. But they just beat Seattle in Seattle. Granted, no 12th man and stuff like that, but it's still not an easy place to play. And like I said, they've been looking up. They've won now 4 games in a row. Yeah, they beat Washington, they beat the Eagles, they beat the Bengals coming out the bye, then they beat the Seahawks come after that. So like I said, they're looking up, they're improving, which is again not something you could say about basically any other team, maybe sans Washington in the division. So, and shout out to them. There's a very real possibility they could make the playoffs this year. The Seahawks, on the other hand, like I said, they fall to 8-4, which isn't that bad. But obviously now they're going to be in a dogfight with the Rams for the rest of the division because the Rams now have the lead over them as currently stands. But they do play the Rams. Well, the Seahawks and Rams play week 16, so that'll more or less be for the division, you could argue, depending on what happens in between there. Like I said, the Rams were able to get a big win today. They were able to beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are now 2 games back. Their playoff hopes are definitely much slimmer now. And a lot of it stemmed from the fact that, again, their offense couldn't really do a whole lot. Now, again, Kyle Murray's been playing hurt. Don't know how much that affected him in this game personally. But like I said, outside of the first drive where they got the touchdown early, like they really didn't do a whole lot for a majority of the game. And DeAndre Hopkins himself did not do a whole lot, though that's clearly the Jalen Ramsey effect. Ended up with 8 for 52, but like on 13 targets. Like I said, not his normal excellent day kind of thing. Like I said, this is nothing new for Jalen Ramsey for this pass defense. You know this is what they do. Like I said, they lock people down and they keep people corralled. Like I said, Kyler Murray only threw for 173 yards on 39 attempts, 4.4 yards per attempt. So, like I said, the pass defense has been good and continued to be good in this game. Jared Goff, not with the bench talk and stuff like that, he had himself a very efficient day, 37 of 47, 351, one touchdown. They ran the ball well. Cam Akers had 72 yards. Darrell Henderson had 49 yards. Goff also had a rushing touchdown. So they ran the ball effectively and played defense effectively. They did lose the one fumble, which proved to be costly. I think that was on the kickoff, if I remember correctly. No, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I think it was on like a kickoff. They fumbled. So that was really their only turnover. And or was it? No, yeah, it was on a kickoff. I'm pretty sure it was. And then obviously the real game sealer was with the Cardinals. They were down 10 with like 4.5 minutes left or 5 minutes left. Kyler throws the pick six to Troy Hill. That makes the score. I'm confused by this. It makes the score 38-21. Excuse me. Like I said, the ESPN box score was making it weird. But like I said, it's 38-21. The Cardinals do come back, score another touchdown late. But like I said, they're down 10 points, so it doesn't matter. Like I said, that was the real backbreaker. They were down 10, driving, had the ball. Well, not driving, but they had the ball. Could potentially again cut it to a single possession game. Kyler Murray throws the pick six, and that was all she wrote. So like I said, big win for the Raiders. Not for the Raiders. They had a big win, but the Rams. And like I said, a tough one for the Cardinals. Also in the NFC, what else happened? The Saints continued to win. Jason Moore actually looked good passing the ball today. Through his first two career touchdown passes. Shout out to him. 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. Michael Thomas still doing Michael Thomas things. 9 for 105. No touchdowns though. We still yet to get a touchdown this year, which is kind of annoying. As a person that has him in fantasy, but hey, you gotta live with what you can get. And the defense played well once again at 3 more sacks on Matt Ryan. Not as bad as the 8 that he had the last time, but 3 more sacks on him. Forced a fumble. Just like I said, the Saints defense is playing great right now, and Taysom Hill and the offense is doing just enough to continue to win. And that'll probably continue into next week when they play the Eagles. They'll win that game, whether it's him or Drew Brees back there. But again, they want to keep that top spot in the NFC. Want to make sure they get that first round bye. And like I said, with the Packers still a game back, you got to keep winning. Like I said, they've already secured their playoff spot as of right now. But like I said, they haven't secured the division or the 1 seed or anything like that. But again, you keep winning. You keep pace with that. So again, shout out to them for getting the big dub. Speaking of the Packers, that game's interesting because obviously, well, the Packers won, so that's not surprising. Like you expected that. But things that happened in the game are what made them interesting. And the big thing that happened in that game was not on the Packers side outside of, Devontae Adams continuing to do Devontae Adams things. Plus, Aaron Rodgers being the fastest person to 400 career touchdown passes. Funny enough, I think they mentioned on the broadcast, Devontae Adams caught his 200th touchdown pass and also his 400th touchdown pass. So that is pretty cool. But yeah, well, guys, like I said, the big thing in that game was the fact that Carson Wentz did in fact get benched in the second half for Jalen Hurts. And the offense looked a little better. Now, didn't look great. Jalen Hurts did not look great, but he did score. And then obviously got the punt return, which is the big thing, which again could have happened regardless. But there was a weird momentum shift once he got benched that all of a sudden teams started playing better. But then obviously they did what they normally do, and that is fold under pressure. And they gave up the 77-yard touchdown run to Aaron Jones, when the game was still like winnable. Like, they got to stop there, maybe get the ball back. I know they had the ball, they had to punt it back, but you get another stop there. I think they had it most of their timeouts. Like again, you maybe could get the ball back with a chance to win it, or a chance to at least tie it, or go for 2 and win it, which they probably would have done, I would think. like I said, they gave up a 77-yard run, and that was basically that was it. Just Jalen Hurts got picked on the next possession. But like I said, now there's a conversation that needs to happen in Philadelphia. Now they brought on themselves, so they can't really blame anyone but themselves. This conversation would not be being had if they didn't have a second-round rookie as the backup quarterback. If it was Nate Sudfeld, I don't think. I mean, people probably still would have wanted Carson Wentz, but the screams wouldn't have been as loud. Like I said, as he continued to play poorly, the screams have only grown and grown. And then at this point, now, like I said, they was at the point where they put him in for a spark. Like I said, the offense definitely moved better in the second half, though I think a lot of that was because Jalen Hurts is more mobile than Carson Wentz is at this time, which isn't that shocking. I mean, he still got sacked, I think, 3 times in limited action. So, again, it's not like the line was playing that much better. He just maneuvers the pocket a little bit better and is able to and is more decisive when he gets out and runs, or wants to get out and run. So, like I said, he can do some things and add some things to the offense that Carson Wentz can. Also, they didn't have a chance to game plan for him, so they didn't really know what to expect. Really, no one did because no one's seen him run an actual offense. Basically, anytime he comes in, they're running RPOs or read option plays. I said no one really knew what to expect from Jalen Hurts. So, like I said, I'm curious to see if he does start this next week against the Saints, how that would go. But yeah, that could be. Oh, that's like I said, that's going to be the big story this weekend, at least in Philadelphia. Not everywhere, but in Philadelphia, is just going to be what happens at the quarterback position. And at this point, it's hard to argue. Again, when they played Hurts and the offense looked better in spurts, like I said, still had some of the issues. The line still is what it is. The receivers still don't get as open as often as they can. And the quarterback still didn't get sacked a lot. But the offense moved the ball, which, again, is not something it did when Wentz was in there, at least in this game. So, like I said, it's hard to imagine you go back to him at this point, because, like I said, like, what are you going to do? Like, alternate series? Like, it's just a weird situation, because you can't. I know before they were saying like, you didn't want to do it because you're signaling like you're waving the flag in the season, which, I mean, there should be. But, again, that's a different story. And that's the good thing, if you're an Eagles fan, about the Giants winning today, is that, like, it doesn't give them this cloud of, like, oh, we're right there in the division. Like, no, you're not right there because you're going backwards, and the Giants and Washington are ascending upwards. So, like I said, to say that we're right there is technical because, again, record-wise you are. But in terms of, like, level of play this season, you're not. Like, you're clearly regressing while other teams in the division are getting better. So, like I said, you're not right there. You're not. Like, again, you can't possibly say that. You can't be watching yourselves play and like understanding that every week and then, like I said, come out and say like, oh yeah, we're right there. Because, like, again, technically you are, but, like, you're not playing like it. So yeah, that'll be the big story to see kind of what comes out of that. I don't know if Doug will announce it on Monday or Wednesday or whenever. But like I said, now that it's happened, they got to deal with it. Like I said, they held off they probably held off on it as long as they could. But like I said, once it happened, then Hurts didn't look like a complete deer in headlights out there. Like, he looked competent to a degree. Again, it wasn't perfect. But again, he didn't look terrible. So like I said, with that being said, it's like, how can you argue for going back to Wentz after this? Like, it's just hard to say. Because again, you come out here, first drive, you go 3 and out. Like I said, I mean, granted, there's not really going to be any fans in the stands. But like I said, there's, like, you're basically going to have to, like, at what point do you bench him again? Like, that'd be the story. It's like, are you just going to do this every week where, like, all right, we gets the first half, the offense isn't good. And then we go to Hurts in the second half, and then, like, we kind of sort of get some energy and a little bit of a spark. Like, that seems futile at this point. Just like I said, either make a decision. Like, either you're going to go with Hurts for the time being, or you're going to stick with Wentz. Like I said, you can't be, like, starting Wentz and then, like, having Hurts come in. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Just, like, let Hurts be the starter, let Wentz be the starter. Like I said, at this point, like, it's worth at least seeing for a game what could happen. But also, again, at this point, like, say Hurts comes out and the Saints defense is solid, they come out and then they have like 3 points at half. You can't then go back to Wentz. It's like, because you do flip-flop and it's not going to do anybody. As we talk about Chicago, because the Chicago lost to the Lions today. Which isn't clearly not the answer. Had the big fumble there. It kind of cost them that one. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And like I said, right now, I don't know if the Eagles have 2 quarterbacks or the one quarterback isn't playing that well. But like I said, they don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, this mess is entirely their own creation. If you believe in the guy, then you don't draft a quarterback in the second round. If you don't believe in the guy, then play the rookie quarterback you drafted in the second round, because you drafted him in the second round, and this team needs impact from his draft pick, so it's not really getting a whole lot. Obviously, Rieger had himself a nice impact today. Had nothing but positive yardage or positive plays on his 3 touches. Only had 3 touches, which again is kind of wild for a first round pick. But it is what it is. That's the offense is bad. It's whatever. So at the end of the round, had the 30-yard pass, and then obviously had the punt return touchdown. So like I said, there's only 3 times touched the ball. Good things happen every single time. Maybe, I don't know, get him the ball more. But I'm not a coach, so there's that. But yeah, like I said, that's going to be the big story in Philadelphia. One of the bigger stories to pay attention to across the NFL, just like what's happening with that. Because again, there's implications on not only just this season, but the future. Like I said, there's no, if you bench Wentz and Hurts plays like even decently well, there's no real way you can have both of them on the roster next year. Like I said, how could Hurts play decently well these last 4 games, and then you'd be like, hey, yeah, we're going to go back to Wentz. Even though, like I said, I think Wentz is not who he has been this year. I think he can be fixed under the right circumstances. But, like I said, it's hard to... You invested a second-round pick in this guy. Like, what was the point? Just to have a young backup in there? Which, again, I get because you're paying him a lot of money. But also, you're paying him a lot of money. So, why would you think you needed I mean, everyone needs a backup, but you don't need, a young backup. And he's only... Carson's only, 27 going on 28. He's not even that old himself. Again, it's all of it was just kind of strange when it happened. So, now that's kind of where the Eagles are at. This is their bed, now they gotta lay in it. So, see what happens there. And see anything else happen. Oh, well, this isn't the NFC, but, that Dolphins-Bengals game wasn't really all that exciting. The Dolphins won, but, the exciting parts were the fights. Like I said, there were multiple fights. And multiple people getting ejected. I know Tyler Boyd and Xavier Howard got ejected earlier, and then I think there was another one where Devontae Parker threw some punches, and the coaches got involved. It was all a bit of a mess. Like I said, at the end of the day, it didn't really matter because the game was not that exciting. But I think the second one was after the late hit on the hit on the punt return. If I remember correctly. Like I said, there are multiple fights. Clearly, there's no love lost between these two teams. But yeah, that was more exciting than stuff that happened actually on the field. But hey, the Dolphins 8-4, still have a very good chance to make the playoffs. Though they play the Chiefs next, so that's their schedule at the end of the season is not that easy. Like I said, they had Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, and the Bills. Like I said, 4 winning teams, the Patriots are at 500, but 3 winning teams as of this moment, and 4 teams competing for the playoffs, just like the Dolphins are. So again, they're gonna have a chance to prove their case going forward. So again, we'll see how that plays out over these next few weeks. But after we come back, speaking of teams having issues and players having issues, Houston, yeah, you guys got a problem. You guys got a James Harden problem, and you got to figure out a way how to fix it. Because if not, it's going to be an issue that's going to linger into the season and forward. So we will talk about what that issue is and kind of where they're at right now, right after the break. So stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We're back here again on the GSMC Sports podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, as I said, Houston has a problem. It has a James Harden problem, and I'm not really sure how you're going to repair this. This is, according to Tim McMahon. Again, this came out earlier today. This report about Harden and his lack of an appearance at in the first Rockets practices, you could say. Disgruntled Houston Rockets star James Harden did not participate in the team's first practice on training camp Sunday because of the NBA's COVID-19 protocols. Coach Stephen Silas said Harden was expected to have an individual workout at 200 Center on Sunday evening, but the first-year coach also said he had no recent communication with the perennial All-Star. As it turns out, Harden did not return for the workout, but did tell team management he will report soon, a source told ESPN on Sunday night. Harden, who sources say expressed his desire to be traded to the Brooklyn Nets, posted pictures on Instagram over the weekend that showed him attending rapper Lil Baby's birthday in Atlanta without wearing a mask, which is, again, if you've seen anything or read anything or know anybody from Atlanta or that knows anybody from Atlanta or has been to Atlanta during this pandemic, you know, those people down there have been out and about throughout the entirety of the pandemic. They literally even had the governor try to shut down the mayor, and when she tried to like mandate masks, so kind of got some pushback there. So like I said, that's kind of where Atlanta's at right now. So again, not shocking that he would be there. One, because I know him and Lil Baby are cool, and they had to get him some gifts. I saw, so I think he gave him like $100,000 and like I forget, it was like a watch or like something. He gave him. I mean, athletes and celebrities get very extravagant gifts on their birthdays from their rich friends, and it is quite crazy. Because in theory, this is a quick tangent, but in theory, these celebrities could afford all these gifts. Again, apparently they're getting money, right? At least that's what they appear to show on social media, that they're getting all this money. So they should be able to afford to buy themselves. I mean, normally they do, like buy themselves chains and Rolexes and cars and things like that. But like I said, that is the perks of being rich, is that like, you get a lot of nice stuff for free. A lot. Like I said, like, what does Lil Baby need $100,000 for? Again, anyone needs $100,000. Like I said, like Lil Baby is, by all intents and purposes, rich. So again, just your friend who's obviously much richer than you, James Harden's obviously much richer than he is, but just giving him $100,000 is wild. Like I said, I don't even know what the equivalent would be for like an average person. Because again, what's James? He's getting like $200 million on his contract, right? Like he's getting like paid. So obviously, like again, money not an issue for him. Let me just look up James Harden's contract. Like I said, it's not surprising at all that because of that, he would have to quarantine or be involved in whatever. Because again, he was just out there in a high risk situation. I think it was at a strip club too. Like it was like again, Lou Williams was out of the bubble for like, or was have to quarantine when he came back to the bubble for like 10 days after that. So there's legitimately no way that you could have James Harden go to Atlanta with no mask at a party with very few masks visible and then be like, yeah, cool, just let him back in the building. Like, no, you can't. Like that's okay. So that's good they have protocols, but like also like if Harden knew that and he knew that like training camp started Sunday, like why would he be there? So again, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. So yeah, Harden getting paid $41 million this year. So okay, so if I take, let's see, 100,000 divide that by like 41 mil. Okay, so that's about that percent. So say if I'm getting, okay, so I'm doing some quick math here. So yeah, it's like, so say you're making like $50,000 a year. It's like equivalent to you giving a friend like $120-ish for their birthday. In terms of like what you're, and then again, let's assume you get that like after taxes. So again, I don't know what his contract situation is. Obviously the 41 is just the overall like base salary. So, so this is basically like just an average person giving their friend about $100 for their birthday, which is a good amount of money for an average person, but also like not that much in the grand scheme of things. Like if you're going to buy them a gift of some sort, you're probably going to spend between $50 and $100 depending on what the gift is. So like I said, that's not really a whole lot of money to him, but yeah, still just like that was kind of wild. But yeah, so that's what he was doing with his Saturday night. So that's cool. And just going back to the article, the NBA requires players to quarantine at home this week other than testing at team facilities, individual workouts, and essential activities such as grocery shopping. I'm not exactly sure what hoops he has to jump through in order to practice with the team, Silas, who was hired this offseason, said. I would just say I want him here, and I want him to be a big part of what we're doing. I'm excited to coach him and have him be a part of the team, have him be a part of what we just had out there with a good practice. We have a bunch of guys who are working hard on both ends of the floor and had a good vibe out there. Harden, who has not been available to the media since the Rockets were eliminated from the playoffs, posted a grimacing emoji on his Instagram story on Sunday, like if you care about that kind of thing. Also, apparently, PJ Tucker was also not cleared for practice because of the COVID protocols. So that's interesting. John Wall was apparently at practice, and he's looking good. So that's cool for them that he's looking good. But yeah, the big story out of all this is Harden and like how they're going to handle that. So for starters, I want to say that like the birthday situation is something that the league, I think, is going to have to monitor throughout the year. Because like I said, obviously, you can't, you're not supposed to be going to these places. And obviously, I mean, again, it's before the season starts, like, he's not even going to be, like, working out with the team. But again, if you were supposed to practice with the team on Sunday, you shouldn't then be in a strip club for a birthday party with no mask and probably minimal social distancing the day before. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to have to get these players to not do during the season. Because as I said, as we saw in the NFL, as we saw in the MLB, cases are going to happen. Like I said, you just don't want it to be because your players or your staff or your teams were reckless. Like I said, obviously, this is before the season starts, so it's not that reckless because it doesn't really matter. But again, it's just peculiar. The timing of it, just like I said, he said he wanted to get traded. He didn't get traded. And then now he's like not showing up on time for the start of training camp. Like I said, it's just interesting. That's all it is. Like I said, it doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't mean he's not going to be there for the team. Doesn't mean he's not going to play this season or anything like that. But the just timing of it is very interesting. And like I said, if this is something, like this, whatever the disagreement or like the disgruntled nature in which he feels that continues and lingers on into the season, that's going to spell trouble for the Rockets. Like I said, again, you don't need to exactly be happy with the people you work with in order to do a good job. But that as a star, you want to keep your stars happy, especially in a star-driven league like the NBA. So like I said, if James Harden isn't in fact happy, then it's going to be hard to imagine that they're going to be able to keep him around for a long term, especially if, like I said, things don't start out great, or like I said, they get off to like a slow start or something like that. Like what are the chances that he's not going to like one out later on in the year? So like I said, they kind of got to figure this thing out sooner rather than later. But then the fact that the coach hasn't really been in contact with him, he's like didn't show up today. Well, one, because he couldn't show up because of COVID, but he was like, COVID protocol. He'll be like, okay, he'll show up for the private workout and the individual stuff. He didn't even show up for that. And he'll just say, like I said, soon is a very relative term. Like, soon can mean literally anything. Like, a week is soon. I mean, if you're talking about January, like, the 2021 is soon. So what does that mean? Like, soon can mean tomorrow, soon can mean in a week, soon can mean in 2 weeks. Like, again, I'm just curious to see what that timetable is in his head. And like I said, it doesn't really matter. From his standpoint, well, to me, because I don't know what it'll be or when it will happen. But like I said, that aspect of it is a part of the problem that Houston has right now. Like I said, that shouldn't be happening where your star player just isn't showing up to training camp. Like I said, off-season workouts, minicamp, like this stuff happens all the time in the NFL. Like that is what it is. But again, for Harden to not show, like to not be able to practice because he was at the birthday party on Saturday and was like on Instagram about it, like very clearly. It's not like he was trying to hide it. And then on Sunday, just didn't go to his workout. And like I said, that's a very interesting thing to have happen. Like I said, especially on the heels of him asking for a trade and allegedly, and then not getting traded. Like I said, it just the timing of it is all very, very interesting. So like I said, if obviously they got John Wall, which is like better than nothing. He looks healthy, but again, you won't know until he actually plays in NBA games and plays in like multiple NBA games. Because again, just playing in one doesn't really prove anything. At least long term. like I said, if there is some sort of rift between Harden and the management or the owner or front office, whatever, I don't really know how you patch that up. And if you can't patch it up, then that means that Harden won't be in Houston for much longer. Again, he's not going to get traded this week, I don't think. Who knows? But again, if the Rockets start out slow, what's going to stop him from demanding a trade in January or February or March or whenever? Like, what's going to stop him from doing it then? If, allegedly, he already asked for one before the season started. And you already traded Russ, who was his board. Now, I said, don't know if he signed off or didn't sign off, whatever. But again, if this is in fact true, then that's going to be a problem going forward for the Rockets if they can't figure this thing out. Like I said, I imagine he's going to show up. I know he's not going to not play. Like I said, just the fact that he feels as if he's like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, I don't really feel like showing up right now, so I'm not going to show up. But I'm going to be chilling in Atlanta, though. Like, y'all be cool. Like, I'm going to be in Atlanta, hanging with Lil Baby. Now, obviously, that's his boy, so it's not like it's like a completely far-fetched situation. But again, at the same time, it's like, what do you, like, you got training camp. Like, what do you mean? You're hanging with Lil Baby. like, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me, like I said. This will be something to monitor with James Harden and the Rockets because, like I said, if this doesn't get fixed soon, then the Rockets could be without their franchise player in the near future, and that would obviously be bad for the team long-term and short-term, obviously, because that makes them worse. And also, they don't have any of their draft picks. So, I mean, they got the one from the Wizards a couple years ago, and well, in a couple years in the future, but like I said, their own draft picks they don't have. So, like I said, trading Harden makes those picks a lot more valuable for the Thunder or whoever they decide to trade them to, if they do decide to trade them. I don't think they're going to use all their draft picks, obviously. But still, like I said, the Rockets got to figure something out with the Harden situation. And, like I said, not having him show up and then having him skip his individual workout when he said he was going to be there, it was not necessarily the start to the season that I imagined those guys wanted, on top of the fact he has no communication with the coach. So, like I said, just your normal, typical preseason problems in the NBA. Like I said, we'll see how they get figured out, but Houston, not looking great, and I imagine you can't be feeling great if you're a fan of the team or anything like that, because that's him just like blowing off the team is not necessarily how you want to get your seasons kicked off, especially when again you ended on a sour note, and like I said, your offseason's already been kind of weird because you just traded Russ for John Wall. So like I said, we'll see kind of what happens. Like the rest of it, like again, like they got Christian Wood, like they got Boogie, like I also traded Covington, which was like whatever. Don't know why they would have done that. That's what it is. Like I said, they've had a weird offseason. And like I said, this just continues to make it worse. So again, we'll kind of see how that plays out. And speaking of played out, as we obviously talked about before, Errol Spence Jr., Danny Garcia fight was going down Saturday. So we'll talk about what happened there, what could happen next. And then speaking of next, there's another fight with a big name fighter versus a YouTube star that was booked. And we will talk about that. So we'll discuss all those things right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Podcast Network. So, like I said, Errol Spence Jr., Danny Garcia went down this past weekend, and Errol Spence Jr. showed that he still got it. Obviously, that was going to be the big story coming out of this, because obviously a lot of people do want to see. I guess after the fight they talked about like maybe him versus Pacquiao. I don't know about people trying to see him versus Pacquiao, but obviously him versus Bud Crawford is the fight that many people would love to see. Obviously two of the best in the sport right now. And just like I said, just a great matchup for boxing, and a great matchup for like them, just to try to get both of them to. That's what you want. You want to see guys fight at the height of their powers. Like I said, that was one of the main gripes with like Mayweather and the Pacquiao situation. Not that they're the only big fight, but again, the main issue was that like they waited like a couple years too long because of the whole blood situation and stuff like that. And I think it was like something with gloves too. Like I forget exactly what all the reasons why it got pushed back, but I know it got pushed back. So that was the issue. So yeah, like that was the big thing. We're just that like, oh, you want to get guys to fight at like I said, when it's that time. Like I said, if there were any worries or concerns about Spence, again, not to say that he was perfect or flawless in this fight, but he won it pretty handedly and convincingly, in my opinion, obviously on the scorecards as well. He won it 116 to 112 on two of them, and 117 to 111 on another one. So, like I said, it was a unanimous decision, a very clear and decisive victory for Errol Spence Jr. Retained his belts, and like I said, everyone was a little bit worried, like what would he look like after the long layoff, and obviously after the fight and after the crash, not the fight, after the crash. Again, it had been, as we talked about, like 14 months since he last fought, and so that was going to be everyone's big concern going in. Just like, hey, like what is he going to look like, and how is he going to do? And I said, no, so you didn't have to worry about that after the fight was over, because again, you saw like, hey, look, he's still Errol Spence Jr. for the most part. Like I said, I haven't watched every single one of his fights, so I don't know like where it would rank in terms of his best fights. But again, he was very solid and very decisive. Landed more punches, landed them at a higher percentage, landed more jabs, landed more power punches. Just like I said, well, jabs definitely. Dan Garcia could not hit him with the jab at all, basically all night. Power punches, he got a few more good licks in on Spence. Like I said, the jabs, he was just killing him with the jabs all night. That's why the eye and the area over the eye for Garcia was a little bit swollen. It was because he kept getting caught with that jab. Just like I said, Spence is a guy that as a whole, he dictated the whole fight, applied pressure. And obviously Garcia, as we talked about on the broadcast, he's more of a counter puncher. And again, if you can't really, if you can't really get landing good counter punches, then again it's gonna be tough to beat a guy like Spence. And then, like I said, obviously he outworked him, and that was gonna be the big issue. Was gonna be that just like what his energy level would be like after a long layoff. He still looked energetic, but even during the 12 rounds, obviously they talked about, you normally gets better as the fight goes on. It wasn't anything crazy the last couple rounds, but again, you could still see that he had something left in the tank, which is what was going to be the concern for a lot of people after this long layoff. Number one. And then number two was like, would Danny Garcia be able to land any really big punches to really test to see where that chin was at after the accident? And like I said, he definitely got some good hits on him. But there wasn't really a whole lot that was done wrong from Garcia's side in terms of really testing to see like if Errol Spence Jr. would be able to stand up to like a really huge power punch. But like I said, at the end of the day, Spence was probably the better boxer coming in. Well, in many people's eyes, was the better boxer coming in, obviously. And then was the better boxer coming out. Like, it was clear that, like, he still had it. And like I said, that was always going to be the biggest concern, is, like, where would he be at after his time away? And that was going to be everybody's concern. And like I said, I feel like at least for the time being, again, not necessarily say, like, oh, yeah, he could definitely walk in and fight Bud Crawford sometime next year, but like I said, just in terms of like, oh, would he still be Errol Spence? Like, yes, he's still going to be that. Now, so obviously, the more he gets his feet wet in the ring, the better he'll get. And obviously, he was at the peak of his career. You could argue right after, I think it was the Sean Porter fight in September of last year. Like I said, he's maybe not there, but he's not that far back, which is the big thing. So he doesn't have that much further to get back to that level, which is a good thing for him, and obviously a good thing for the sport. Is that also Terrence Crawford, he was in attendance, so he saw it, live and in person. So that's pretty cool. Obviously he didn't talk about much after the fight, but again, obviously he was just happy to be back in the ring and obviously take some time off after the fight and like hanging out with his kids and his family, stuff like that. But again, that was just cool for him, for the sport, and for him himself to see that, like, hey, look, I still got it. Like I said, Errol Spence Jr. is not like that old. Like, I know he's in like his 20s. I'm looking to see exactly how old he is, but like I said, he's still a relatively young guy. So in theory, he has a lot of time left in the sport. Just like I said, if he would have come back and like lost or got knocked out or something, that would have been a big blow. Yeah, because he's 30. Actually, he turned 30 in March. Like I said, he's only has like 27 fights now. Like I said, he's still got quite a few good years left in him. So, you want to take advantage of that. And like I said, the biggest way to take advantage of that would be to fight Bud Crawford at some point in the future. Like I said, I think that'll be the true test for both of them, because I know a lot of people say that, like I said, Danny Garcia didn't really have the power, or it wasn't at the caliber of him, of an Errol Spence, and also like Bud Crawford will have the power to test to see like, hey, that shouldn't really where it needs to be. But also, I know obviously Crawford's 37-0, but a lot of people would argue that some of his level of competition is not the same as Errol Spence's. Again, different people argue different things depending on what side you're on when it comes to this. But like I said, they're both champions. They're both great fighters, two of the best fighters in the world. So like I said, that's a match that a lot of people would want to see, myself included. So hopefully they're able to get that done sooner rather than later. And speaking of fights that could potentially happen, this one is apparently set to happen. Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather is set to take place in an exhibition on February 20th, so that's like not that far away. It's going to be a pay-per-view fight. Apparently the first 1 million buys will be $25 according to ESPN, or the app, with the price increasing after that threshold is surpassed, or the date gets closer. The price jumps to $70, $69.99, starting February 11th, which is roughly $55, cheaper than the price that was set for Saturday's bout between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia. Obviously, this is not uncommon for Floyd because he fought Conor McGregor, so it's not he's afraid to fight non-boxers. Like, he's done it already, so this is probably why this makes sense for him. I mean, also, again, he does just about, I don't want to say he does everything for money, but like I said, if it makes sense, then it makes sense. You get what I'm saying? So, I guess he also fought a kickboxer on New Year's Eve in 2018 in an exhibition that reportedly netted him $9 million. So, like I said, he's not a stranger to this, and obviously, Jake Paul has fought KSI a couple times. So, like I said, it's not like they're completely, like, it's not like Jake Paul's completely out of the realm. Like, again, you saw his brother just fought. Granted, he fought an athlete, not an actual boxer, so there's a bit of a difference. My biggest thing about this is that, like, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but then again, we'll see if it actually happens, because if it doesn't happen, that wouldn't shock me either. But if it did, my biggest thing is, like, I'm pretty sure Logan Paul is, like, kind of tall. Like, yeah, he's like 6'1", 6'2", and Floyd is not 6'1" or 6'2", so I'm really curious to see how that would work. Because obviously they have to fight at, like, a certain weight in order for, like, I guess it to, well, I know it's an exhibition, but still I would think you have to fight a certain weight, and obviously Floyd's only 5'8". Not say you hadn't fought people taller than him before, but like I said, I don't think, like, if they were real boxers, like Floyd and Logan Paul be in the same weight class, so, like, I'm curious to see how that plays out. But again, when you're talking about Floyd here, if he feels like it's a good move financially, he's going to do it. So like I said, if the money's right for it, like, he's not really afraid of losing to a YouTuber. I was thinking also, apparently it's an exhibition match, so I don't know if it would count as official record. Because obviously I do believe that is of importance to him, and just make sure he maintains his undefeated record. So there is that. But again, that would just be an interesting thing. So I'm curious to see how that would go. If that does, in fact, I mean, not curious. I would imagine Floyd would win, because again, Logan Paul hasn't fought an actual boxer. He's fought a guy with boxing training, but he hasn't fought an actual boxer before. And stepping in the ring with Floyd was a wild thing. Because then even like the McGregor fight, like, at least like McGregor was like a trained fighter for like years and like a champion and stuff like that. Again, different kind of sport, but a trained fighter. And then even that one, like, it was like clear Floyd was just messing with him, which I imagine this fight would be the exact same kind of scenario. He messes with him for a while, and like eventually he shows like, I'm a boxer, you're not, so I'm gonna start hitting you like repeatedly in the face. Like, it would be quick and simple and like not that complicated. But again, you probably get paid a decent amount of money, especially since like a guy like Jake Paul has a lot of followers, a lot of big fan base. Those that want to see him win, also a lot of those that want to see him lose and get embarrassed. And Floyd Mayweather has a similar thing. A lot of people that like him want to see him succeed, want to see him do well, want to see him win. Also, a lot of people that are hoping to see him get knocked out any chance they get. So like I said, that will, if that is legit, don't know if it's legit, but if it is legit, I imagine that'll draw a lot of viewers. Just because, again, a lot of people are going to want to see both these guys lose or get knocked out or something happen. A lot of people are going to want to see that because these guys aren't exactly the most likable guys on the internet. So that was an interesting thing. Obviously not the same caliber of Errol, Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford, but still, like I said, Floyd's involved in his boxing. Like, it's going to get eyes. Like I said, obviously Jake Paul has fought in actual boxing matches before, so it's not like it's a completely foreign concept to him. And again, you probably want to take advantage of the buzz that his brother got with the knockout and things like that. So like I said, that's why the timing of it is interesting, that it would happen right after that. That's why that makes me question if it's like legit. But if it is in fact legit, then like I could see this kind of thing happening, because like I said, with Floyd, he'll do quite a few things for money. And like I said, I imagine he'll get a nice little payday. I don't know where it would go down, or like how it would be sanctioned, or like what the situation would be like that. Like, I just know Floyd shared it on Instagram. So like I said, it could be fake, could be real. Who knows? But like I said, I think it's through Fanmeo is what they're claiming. So again, we'll kind of see if it's legit. But again, it wouldn't surprise me either way if it is real or if it's like a fake thing. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. But again, in fairness, a lot of people didn't think this Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson fight would actually happen, and it did. So, like I said, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it. Let's put it that way. I'll believe it when I see it actually go down. So like I said, but regardless, that was just an interesting thing to just come up on like on a Sunday afternoon. They'd be like, oh yeah, Floyd Mayweather's going to fight a YouTuber. I'm like, what? And like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I said, it's not actually surprising. But still, it's a interesting choice to say the least for both of these guys. So after this next break, we will come back and we're going to talk about the college football slate. On this past weekend, some interesting games, obviously. We got arguably the game of the year. In some people's eyes, obviously, I still think it's Clemson, Notre Dame, just personally. But again, teach their own. Between BYU and Coastal Carolina. And like I said, you got some other games and other guys showing out and doing amazing things. So we will discuss all of that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So, college football, gotta talk about it. BYU, Coastal Carolina. That game was everything you could have hoped for it to be, seeing as it was scheduled, I think, on like a Thursday, or like on this past Thursday. Like, it was very last minute, very short notice. BYU had to fly cross country to play this game, but again, they said they'd play anybody, any place, anytime, anywhere. So, you gotta live up to that reputation. And they did. Like I said, they flew across the country to play Coastal Carolina, and out of it, we got a very compelling game, a down-to-the-wire game between two good teams, which I think, and like two teams like innovative offenses, and like again, the Coastal Carolina, the offense like the weird like shotgun triple option thing, and obviously BYU with their with Zach Wilson and like the play action passing and different things. Wasn't exactly an offensive like showcase, but again, that's kind of to be expected when it's two teams basically on short notice, don't really have much time to game plan or like strategize for the other. Again, they did some game plan, but a lot of it was just like, hey, this is what we do, we're going to do it. And then that's for Coastal Carolina. BYU's like, this is what we do, we're going to do it, like offensively and defensively. And then, like I said, they both did their thing and just went to see how it worked. And unfortunately for BYU, it worked a little bit better for Coastal Carolina than it did for them. And the big thing for them was that BYU had come into the game with like a very, very stout run defense, I believe. And that did not hold true. In this one, Coastal Carolina, again, innovative offense. They didn't really know what to expect. Again, obviously, so watch some film, but they didn't really have a full week to really game plan and like study and try to like get everything figured out. They literally took this game on 2 days' notice and basically on one day because you got to fly there. So you're watching the film on the flight, and then like you had like Friday because you had the game Saturday. Not a whole lot of time to prep and things like that. And maybe if they did prep, things would have gone a little bit better because they gave 281 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. And that was really the story of the game. It was that the fact that BYU just couldn't stop the run. Like, the passing game was like, whatever. Like, McCall is a freshman, so again, though he's been good this year, they're not really going to ask him to do a whole lot. I guess, redshirt freshman. But yeah, they're not really going to ask him to do a whole lot. But still, like I said, only threw the ball 15 times, only 85 yards. But still, he made all the necessary plays when he had to. And obviously, he was orchestrating the offense very, very well to the tune of almost 300 yards on the ground. Like I said, this game was pretty close, pretty competitive, back and forth. Obviously, one of the few mishaps for BYU, especially early on, was they missed the extra point. But the biggest thing for them was that they weren't able to capitalize on the one turnover they got. They got a fumble right after they scored a touchdown to make it 7-6. They got a fumble, and they immediately went 4 plays and punted. And I believe, not punted, they turned over on downs. And I believe this was the 4th and 1 where they tried like the double pass on 4th and 1 where it was like clear, like he threw it back, like all Zach Wilson probably had to do was run. He could have got the first time, try to throw it deeper down the field, and it got deflected. And it was just one of those situations where like BYU was trying to get a little too cute, but again, that's kind of just how they've been. They've been able to do like whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted on just about everybody this season. And that was not the case in this game, unfortunately for them. And like I said, their aggressiveness and their, I don't know what, boldness, their brazen nature kind of came back to bite them a little bit in this one. And unfortunately, like I said, like that was again, it's 4th and 1. You're at like the 49 or 50 yard line. There's no reason to go for the the double pass on a 4th and 1. There's no reason for it. You got Coastal Carolina 49 yard line. You don't need the double pass. Like, that's not necessary. And then immediately after that, Coastal Carolina comes down, drives down and scores a touchdown. It's like I said, you gave them a short field to work with, and they were able to make good use of that short field and punch it in on a 1 yard run on a 4th down. So like I said, they came up with a stop on 4th down on one end. You weren't able to come up with a stop down on 4th and goal on the other end. And granted, they drove down the field and scored again right after that, so it wasn't like the biggest deal. Like, it worked out. Like I said, they were able to go into the halftime leading, but obviously heading into the half, they threw the interception on the Hail Mary. That went down to the 1. Then you had the little situation where 2 guys from Coastal Carolina ended up, kind of blocking Zach Wilson a little hard. 94, I think, was Gunter. Slammed him down a couple times. Probably could have been ejected if people were paying closer. They should have at least been flagged. I don't even think it was flagged, but could have honestly been ejected if they wanted to. because, again, it was unnecessary. It's like, again, you're just slamming the guy just to slam him. Obviously, again, they're kind of bold and brave and things like that, but it was like that was not a necessary thing to do. But hey, it's only legal if you get caught. So like I said, they let him get away with it, and it worked out because he was very good in that game, had a presence on that game, 100%. So like I said, him being able to play in that second half was of importance for Coastal Carolina, as we saw. So like I said, you come into second half, like I said, it's a 1-point lead for BYU. They get a field goal to start the half, and then they force a punt, and then the next drive they fumble on the first snap. Oh yeah, because Algieri on first and 10 fumbles. Coastal Carolina gets a field goal out of that. BYU unfortunately has to punt the next drive. Then they go. Coastal Carolina goes 85 yards on 13 plays. Gets another touchdown run to take the lead 22-17. And then there's a lot of punts and stuff back and forth. The BYU could never really just get consistency going in their offense in the second half. Like I said, outside of the one field goal drive to start, like they had 3 punts and a turnover. But they were able to the defense was able to buoy up after, giving up letting some clock run. They were able to eventually get a stop on 3rd and 4 to get themselves the ball back. And BYU drove down the field a little bit, ended up with the play for the game, for their season really, at the 18-yard line of Coastal Carolina. And much like I think it was Titans-Rams Super Bowl, BYU came up just 1 yard short. I forget I think it was number 12. He was talking trash after the tackle too, but I get it. But I believe he made the stop there near the goal line and then pulled the receiver back barely. And thus, BYU couldn't get the 1 yard they needed. Because again, if he breaks that tackle, he probably was able to reach over, but the guy was too strong, pulling him back. And BYU loses. Coastal Carolina gets the biggest win in their school's history, obviously. And it was all, like I said, all in all, it was just a great game and a great moment for college football. Because again, if you would have told anybody before the year, you're going to care about a December BYU Coastal Carolina game, like no one would have believed you. Like I said, that game honestly was arguably the most important game of the entire weekend in terms of like implications and things like that. But yeah, no, just a very good game, very entertaining game, very impressive game. And like I said, that's what non-conference games should look like. Like competitive, hard fought, down to the last minute. Like that's what you want out of non-conference games. Which is why I think like you shouldn't. I know somebody, I think it was Ben Solak on Twitter. He wrote an article about like this game is what college football should be. And again, a part of that would just be like these kind of games are what we should see, like high stakes games in December. Again, obviously it was put together on a whim, so you can't do that every year, and you would really only be able to do that this year. But like I said, you shouldn't have to schedule non-conference games 5-10 years out where you don't know what it's going to look like, or what you don't know what these teams are going to look like. That's I mean. Again, I get why you do it, but like I said, that's not how it should be. You should be able to be like, hey, look, we have an open date. You have an open date. Let's play. Right before the season starts. Like that's the kind of thing it should be like, hey, look, we kind of we think we're going to be good this year. We may need a win to boost or boast our potential playoff status. Like, hey, why don't we play you? Like I said, that's what this game was. It was like, this game had serious college football playoff implications because if BYU would have won, not to say they would have vaulted into the top 4 or whatever, but then it would have been hard to argue for them being outside of the top 10. And now at least they're in a New Year's Six bowl or something like that. So like I said, obviously it didn't, so it doesn't really matter. But again, this game had real implications for both sides. And like I said, that's what these non-conference games should be. It shouldn't just be like, oh, Alabama schedules whoever. Or I know like Ohio State and Oklahoma, they had the back-to-back a couple years ago. And like that was cool because those games were impressive, and it actually mattered. And like I said, that's what you want. Like I said, that's what you want on non-conference games. Like I said, so that was really cool to see. Like I said, because I cared. I'm not sure if everybody cared, but I know I cared about this game, so that was cool. But obviously looking around at some of the other games, obviously Ohio State came back, did what they had to do, smoked Michigan State. Again, just to show people like, hey, look, we're still one of the top teams in the country. Like, don't get it confused. Obviously, the big thing will be if Michigan is able to play. And if they're not able to play, will the Big Ten finesse some rules to try to get the Ohio State into the Big Ten championship game at 5-0? But like I said, if Ohio State's undefeated, I don't care what anybody else does. They're, well, assuming, unless Florida wins the SEC championship. If that happens, then different story. But if that doesn't happen, then Ohio State's getting in. It doesn't really matter. If they play, like I said, they play 6 games, 7 games, whatever, they'll get in. So like I said, that was a big win for them. Florida, Kyle Trask continues to do his thing. Had 443 yards, 4 more touchdowns in this game against Tennessee. I mean, all but cemented himself as the Heisman favorite, I would assume, going into the last week or two of the season. And so that would be big. So that, like I said, that's good for them. Alabama, they put it on LSU. Like I said, I don't know what Ed Orgeron's going to do, but like they put it on him. Devontae Smith, I think he had like 200 and like 3 touchdowns. Yeah, well, definitely had 3 touchdowns. But I think he had like over 200 yards in the first half. Like, it was absurd. He was, like I said, I think it was the last touchdown. Like the one-handed grab in the back of the end zone. It was absurd. Like, I've already discussed it on the podcast, but Alabama had 4, depending on what happens with Mitchie. You could potentially talk about 5 first-round wide receivers. Like I said, if Mitchie, cause I assume he was on the team last year. I have to look up to see what grade he was in. But like I said, they have at least 4 first-round wide receivers on the team last year, and it's very much an argument that Devontae Smith was the best one of them. And that's only continuing to prove to be true this season. Like I said, even with Waddle out, he's still, and like I said, so you would think like, oh, Waddle's out, you get more attention on him. Nope, it hasn't been the case. He's been dominant. So, like I said, that's great for him because he's been absolutely sensational at this point, through this point in the season. Like I said, he's cemented himself. Like, if Jamar Chase is probably going to be the first receiver off the board, he's cemented himself as he should be the second. Because, again, based on what he's done, and obviously he did it, he played this year. Waddle played well before he got hurt, and then Jamar Chase didn't play. Like I said, there's no reason to say that he shouldn't be in consideration for the first receiver off the board. So I said, shout out to him. He had a great game. Like I said, because he had a great game, Mac Jones had a great game. Alabama's doing what they had to do. What else? Clemson. Again, Trevor Lawrence didn't play that great, but again, they still got the win. 45-10. Still going to be an AC championship game. Going to get their rematch with Notre Dame. Try to see if they can avenge their lone loss. So that was cool for them. Indiana got a very good win over Wisconsin. Held them to 6 points. Defense, like I said, was stifling. And Tuttle did what he had to do in place of Penix Jr. But like I said, the defense was really the story of the game. Hold Wisconsin only 6 points. I think they got the pick. They got the pick like at the very end. Oh no, they got the pick early in the second half. Excuse me, but they were all able to hold. Yeah, no, because they got the deflection on the 4th down pass in the right corner. And yeah, that's how it ended. Nice pass, but like I said, just better defensive play. Like I said, the pass game really wasn't able to get going. The run game they did like all right. Like I said, Indiana just. And then the coolest thing about that game, obviously outside of them winning it, had a couple sacks and stuff like that too, was just like how happy and how much adoration and appreciation they had for their coach after the game. Because he's trying to interview every player that walks by saying like he's the best coach, he's the best coach, he's the best coach. Like, come play for him. But like I said, that's a true testament to what it has been built at Indiana this year. Like I said, that's not something you can fake. Like that's legitimate love for the coach and for playing for this school and for this team that, like, again, Indiana may not have had prior to this season. So like I said, that is really cool for Indiana. I think it's Tom Allen. I want to say, like, I don't want to like get his name wrong. Like I said, I think it's Tom Allen. So like I said, shout out to him because, like, again, whatever he's building at Indiana is clearly on the up and up. And like I said, everybody loves him. Like I said, he couldn't even really do his interview because his players kept interrupting and saying just how much and expressing their love for the coach and for the program. So like I said, shout out to them because Indiana's having a special season. What else? Iowa State has their shot at a Big 12 championship game, so that was cool. They dominated West Virginia 42-6. They play Oklahoma, who has been playing, like, again, they got the 2 early losses, Rattler had to get it out of his system, but they have played a lot better over the last couple months of the season. And so that'll be an interesting thing to see. And it's like I said, it's really unfortunate they lost those 2 games early, because because they lost to Iowa State earlier, I guess, and then Kansas State. But ever since that Texas win in quadruple overtime, they've been great. Offense has been great. Defense has done what they had to do. So, like I said, that'll be the big test for them. Well, they play West Virginia next week, again, a game that had to get made up. But then after that, they play Iowa State in the championship game. So again, see if they were able to get that, and then again cement themselves in like the top 10, probably even like maybe in the top 8 potentially. Because again, Iowa State's at 9, so you win that game. Hard to say you're not going to be in top 8 above teams like Georgia or who aren't going to play for a championship game, things like that. Also, this was a Sunday game, but shout out to USC and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who caught 4 touchdown passes in the first quarter. A lot of receivers recently have been going off in like the first halves of games. It's very interesting. First quarter, first halves. So yeah, USC put it on Washington State 38-13. They're 4-0. Like I said, they're looking like the cream of the crop in the Pac-12 at this moment. Obviously with Oregon suffering a second loss, this one to Cal. Washington's now in the lead in that side of the Pac-12 North. Like I said, Colorado is still undefeated, so again, USC got to keep winning. But like I said, if they win the next game, I'm pretty sure they're a lock. I could be wrong about that though, but I think they're going to be the team to go to the Pac-12 championship game from that side. So again, shout out to them for getting that done. And yeah, Notre Dame obviously continued. They had a little scare there early with Syracuse, but again, they're better. So there's no reason not to believe that they would get that job done. Same thing with Texas A&M and Auburn. They had a little scare too, Texas A&M did, but they were able to pull it out because Bo Nix is really not like that. Passing the ball at least. But he's still young. He's only a sophomore, but still. He's not ready for prime time just yet. He scored a couple touchdowns and kicked the field goal in the fourth, Texas A&M did, to secure that victory. So, shout out to them. So, yeah, no, like I said, a bunch of interesting games happening, a bunch of interesting outcomes. And again, you got one more weekend, and then we got the championship games. And then, like I said, then we'll obviously have the playoffs all set and everything like that. So, we'll see how that goes. But next weekend will be the last weekend of the regular season for most conferences. Well, some of it was this weekend, but again, if you want to make up stuff for like you're the Pac-12 or the Big Ten, we've got this last game of your season. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes, and also we'll look ahead later in the week to the games that will be going on this upcoming weekend. So, we'll discuss that when we get there. But yeah, after this next period, we're going to come back here one more time and discuss, like I said, college basketball. Gonzaga's having some COVID issues, and they're not alone, and they won't be alone this season. So we'll talk about that and kind of what I hope the NCAA has in place, because as we saw with college, you're gonna have to cancel games. You got to figure out how you're gonna work around that. So we'll discuss all that right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Gonzaga has had to pause all team activities due to COVID-19 protocols one day after 2 positive tests within the basketball program from one player and another member of his traveling party led to the postponement of a highly anticipated matchup against number 2 Baylor in Indianapolis. According to the school's release, Gonzaga will not return to action until December 15th, which is a week from Tuesday. if I have my days correct, which means the Bulldogs will cancel upcoming games against Tarleton, Southern, Northern Arizona, and Idaho. Gonzaga is set to face off with number 3 Iowa on December 19th at the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in a matchup with potential Selection Sunday implications. Like I said, out of abundance of caution, they are going to pause basketball competitions due to December 14th. The school said in a statement. And I guess apparently this came down about an hour before tip-off of the Gonzaga-Baylor game. The team released a joint statement about the postponement of the game, saying that they had mutually agreed to reschedule the contest after consulting with local officials. Indianapolis following the 2 tests. Few might have the best player. No, a few, obviously the coach, might have the best roster he has ever coached. Jalen Suggs turned himself into one of the hottest prospects in the country after his season opening win against Kansas. Yeah, and he has a couple other guys. So again, the Gonzaga is a very good team this year. Like I said, Few, I forgot that was his last name. I was like, Few might have a best roster? Like, what does that mean? But yeah, no. Obviously, Gonzaga having to pause games is not unlikely or uncommon because it's going to happen this year with everybody. But like I said, it puts into question just like what does the NCAA have planned in case something like this happens. What is the plan going forward for stuff like this? Because again, obviously, and we can talk about in a second, UConn also had to do the same thing, shut down their basketball activities and stuff like that after they had a positive test. Apparently Friday's game against St. John's has been postponed. Their game on Saturday was canceled due to a COVID test in the NC State Wolfpack traveling party. So again, it's just an interesting thing that multiple teams are already having to cancel. Again, they're not alone. There's other games in the school that have to cancel things. But again, it just goes to show, like, what is the NCAA going to do about this? And what's the plan going forward? And I know there was an article I was reading about mid-majors, and we'll kind of talk about it in a second, but one of the big things about the mid-majors and their issues was the fact that, like, are they really working towards anything? Like, obviously, the NCAA tournament got canceled last year. They are planning to play it as if it's not going to get canceled this year. But what's to say that a 68-team tournament inside an enclosed venue is the smartest idea? Especially when, again, I don't know how it's like, if they're going to make it a bubble, or they're going to, like, I know they talk about making it a bubble. Again, are you actually going to do that? Are you going to do it in different locations like you normally do? Like, again, the questions on how all this is going to work have yet to be answered. And like I said, that's the biggest issue right now is, like, if the tournament isn't going to be played, which is highly likely that it's not going to get played, what are all these teams working towards? Like, again, you're playing, a lot of you guys are playing for NBA careers and things like that, but again, the schools, like, what are you playing for? Like what is the purpose? Like, again, you schedule all these out-of-conference games to try to get, again, raise your profile. Like I said, that's why Gonzaga's playing. It was going to play Baylor. It was going to play Iowa. So, again, when you look back on Selection Sunday and things like that, you can be like, oh, they got this game, they got this win, they got this loss, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Great, that makes sense. Like I said, there's no tournament, then, like, what's the point? And then B, if there is a tournament, like, is this going to be a safe thing to do? Because, like I said, you're only going to have so much time, like I said, and how is that going to be factored in to the selection? Because as we saw in football, like I said, like certain teams, like if Ohio State didn't play a certain number of games, they weren't qualified for the conference tournament. And same thing, I guess they were the only thing, but I guess same thing would happen for like a Pac-12 school if they had some situations like that. But again, that was the biggest issue, is that, like, hey, if Michigan can't play this weekend, which maybe they can't, then how are you going to feasibly let Ohio State get into the Pac-12 Big Ten championship game with 5 wins? Which, again, they probably will because they need to. But, again, for the school and, like, for Ohio State's going to want them to, just because, again, they kind of came back for a shot at the college football playoff. They didn't come back to not play in the playoffs. Like, if they can't play in the playoff, then, like, what was the point? Obviously, other than, again, they shouldn't have played regardless. But if they're going to play, you want to play for all the marbles. That makes sense. And like I said, what is the NCAA? What do they have in place? Like, what do the conferences have in place in terms of, like, what are the protocols? What are the stipulations for if a certain school doesn't meet the threshold for, like, what is the threshold for games you have to play to make the tournament? Like, again, if a school for either their own fault or, not fault, but for their own positive cases or, like, cases around them, like, if a school only plays, like, say you normally play, like, I forget say you play, like, 20 conference games or whatever, 15, 20, and they only play, like, somewhere between, like, 5 and 10, is that enough to qualify? Again, well, I guess everybody qualifies for the tournaments, things like that. Like I said, it would be hard to say. Like, say a team plays, like, 15 games or 18 games. Can they be a 1 seed or a 2 seed over a team that played 25 games or 26 games? Like again, there was no real stipulations on that. Like, there's no real, again, from what I saw. Again, I could be wrong. But, I mean, obviously there was a big to-do about it from the college football standpoint. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what all the conferences are going to do, blah, blah, blah. And as we saw, clearly the conferences do not care about playing non-conference games. Because, I mean, unfortunately, they kind of have to. Like in college basketball, you have to in order to get... It's the same thing with the playoff committee. That's why you saw BYU and Coastal Carolina playing on a whim for no real reason on a random Saturday in December, just because, hey, if we win this game, maybe we got a chance, and that's a chance to sneak into the playoff. Instead, the same thing's happening for the tournament. Is like, hey, look, if we play this, if we're Gonzaga and we play Iowa, like, hey, that's a good game for us, a good game for our profile, national TV, I would imagine. Good game to raise our, like I said, our strength of schedule and, like, get us on the radar for the next selection of Sunday. Things like that. Same thing with the Baylor game. So, like I said, if that isn't gonna happen, then, like, what was the point? And hey, should that even be happening at all? Because, like I said, in football, they were just like, we're not playing anything outside the conference. Like, more or less, we're not playing anything outside the conference. Like, we're just playing each other because we know what we're doing COVID-wise. Like, we don't know what all these other schools are doing COVID-wise. Like, everybody's going to have different stipulations, but we as a conference agreed to these rules. This is what we're going to follow. Again, not say they don't have those in place, because, again, if you have those for football, you have those for basketball. But I said for basketball, they clearly care a lot less about playing teams in other parts of the country, or even playing in other parts of the country. And I said that game's going to be in South Dakota. Like, South Dakota is, from what I thought, was, like, pretty bad with the COVID situation right now. Like, it's getting kind of crazy there. Again, granted, they're not going to be mixing with the locals or things like that, but still, it's like, we're going to go to South Dakota? Like, that doesn't seem that smart. At this moment in time, again, it's not different. Like, football, they're not going to, like, neutral sites and being like, oh, we're going to play here, we're going to meet up here. Things like that. They're like, we're playing at your home or our home, or, like, that's it. So, again, I am kind of curious to see how this goes in college basketball, because, again, as we saw, you're going to have cancellations, you're going to have postponements, you're going to have, and obviously you're already seeing it now, but instead of football or professional sports show us anything, that is, if you are not in a bubble, you're going to get games canceled, you're going to get people testing positive, you're going to have, like I said, postponements and things like that. And you got to make sure you have proper protocols in place for how you deal with it once those games are postponed or canceled or whatever. And like I said, that would be my only worry right now, is does the NCAA, from basketball standpoint, have those things in place? Because if they don't, then that's going to be an issue going forward when you see, like, oh, like I said, because with basketball, that's the issue, that you can't play for a week or 2 weeks. So you're talking about 5 to 10 games, or not 5 to 10, like between like 4 and 8 games you're missing out on, most likely. Like I said, Gonzaga's shutting things down for a week, and they can't, and that's 4 games just out right there. Like I said, at least with football, you're missing 1, maybe 2. Like basketball, you're missing like 5 to 8 games if you're out for 2 weeks. Like, that's a big chunk of your schedule you just, like, can't play, or you're just not going to play. Like I said, how do you plan for that? How do you prepare for that? How do you deal with that on the back end? Like I said, with the seeding and the conference and, like, the selection and different things like that. Like, again, you're gonna have teams playing all different amounts of games, because it's no one's gonna have every game played. I mean, everyone's not going to have every game played, just like I don't think everyone will have no games canceled, if that makes sense. Like I said, everyone's going to deal with this in different ways. Again, some teams might deal with it more than others, but again, I'd be shocked if there were a lot of schools out there that didn't have a game postponed or canceled or something at some point in time. And just like I said, on the flip side, I would be very shocked if a whole conference play all their games with no hiccups. Like that just seems unlikely. Like, especially with the way we've seen this thing going, that seems highly unlikely. Like I said, college football, you're seeing games postponed and canceled every week, and things like that. Like, it's just unlikely to believe that. And like I said, from the mid-majors, like I was saying, like for them, this kind of thing hurts even more because, as with the not out of conference games, that's why some of these schools schedule these big time out of conference games in football is because of the money. Like I said, a lot of these schools don't have the financial backing of a Power 5 school, and like their donors and their boosters and things like that, in order to be able to afford like really good testing and contract tracing and protocols and like be able to fund different things. Like they can't afford that, so they need some of these out of conference games and these invitationals and tournaments and things like that. And if those aren't happening, which I mean you could argue they shouldn't, but if those aren't happening, then how are these schools going to be able to afford to have a season? This is a tough spot to be in for a lot of these mid-major schools. And then, like I said, on the back end, it's like, are we going to risk all of this for nothing? Are we going to risk trying to like find ways to come up with the money, find ways to get games played, find places to play games, find places to practice, all that stuff for no NCAA tournament? And I said, they don't got to worry about national TV games or things like that or those kind of obligations. So again, it's a different situation. They're playing basically for the love. And like I said, they don't, not to say it would be their own fault. Like I completely understand if they don't have an NCAA tournament again this year, but if they don't, then it's like, what, like, are we just doing this for nothing? And then I know that like on ESPN, and that there was a nice article about this a couple of days ago, just about like everything from the mid-major standpoint about what they have to go through this year in regards to COVID and like what it means and what kind of effect it's going to have on other non-Power 5 conference and their chances at the tournament and their chances at, again, just like not leaving this year massively in the red. Because again, a lot of those big-time games against big-time schools are where like these schools get some money, some extra money. Like I said, they're missing out on that. You're going to lose hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars if you can't play these games, which I would argue would be hard to play these games. And then, like I said, everyone gets money from the tournament, the conference tournaments and things like that. Like that's going to be tough. That could be tough to do. Like that could be tough to do this year. So like I said, that's going to be one of the big concerns. Like how do you handle this? How do you deal with this? How do you afford this really from a college basketball standpoint? And like for some of these teams, some of these schools, like that really don't have the means to do everything at the standard that a Power 5 school can do that. It's like I said. Most of these teams aren't even going to have complete non-conference schedules regardless. Like I said, the big time schools, they can afford to take that hit. Because normally they're paying the other schools to play them. So again, they're not really making any money on their end. But like I said, for a lot of these schools, they need some of that money to be able to fund other things and do other things. So if they can't play those out-of-conference games or those non-conference games, that's going to be a big deal. And like I said, and then that's going to matter for the tournament when you're trying to talk about seeding and getting in and things like that. Like it's going to be, like they're not going to have the strength of schedule or the quality wins or things like that on their resume because they just couldn't do it. And like I said, how's that? And like I said, even going forward, like how's it going to affect the tournament? Because again, not everybody's going to be judged on the same field, on the same playing field. And I feel like that's understandable, but is it fair? I don't know. Like I said, college basketball is going to be weird. Also, like again, college sports in general without fans are weird to me because again, the atmospheres are different. Obviously, not that professional sports don't have like home field advantages, things like that. But again, the college atmosphere, which is a lot of kids, a lot of yelling, a lot of energy, like that's not there right now in college sports. And again, football, you kind of get used to it because again, it's a wider. It's again, you just mainly focus on the field. But in basketball, you can see all the emptiness of the arena. Like I said, college is different than pros. Like pros, you got over it. Eventually, they had the virtual crowd and things like that, and they had other ways that you could do things, funnel in crowd noise and things like that. But like I said, college basketball just feels like kind of weird to me without fans. But that's just me. So like I said, gonna be a weird year. Don't even know how they're gonna work it or manage it or what they're gonna do. But like you said, or like we've seen, COVID is here to stay, unfortunately. So they're gonna have to plan for that and plan around that. And I hope college basketball and the NCAA has planned properly around that, because if not, then we're going to be in for an interesting situation come March, February, when they get these conference tournaments may or may not be getting played. The NCAA tournament may or may not be getting played. Selections may or may not be getting made. And like I said, not everybody's going to be judged on the same scale. So that'd be unfortunate. If that is exactly how it plays out. We won't know, but like I said, if that is how it plays out, that'd be rather unfortunate. So, that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast. Now, I want to thank you guys as always for listening to me talk about sports. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top of when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give me a 5-star rating, nice review. It'd be very appreciated, very helpful. I try to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve. Well, the rating and review will allow us to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, and the ways in which we can improve, all that fun stuff. Also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, talk about your takeaways from this weekend in the NFL or in college football. Talk about your predictions for the 3 games that are going to be going on Monday and Tuesday. Talk about what you think about this Houston situation with James Harden and like what's going to happen. Are you going to have to trade him? Is he going to just report and like nothing happen? Like, it's going to be a weird spot for everybody involved. And also, again, your thoughts about the Errol Spence fight, maybe him versus Terrence Crawford in the near future, and also this Floyd Logan Paul situation. If that is in fact true. Talk about any of that stuff. Once again, feel free to reach out to us on social media. Before I get out of here, as I always do, I want to give a shout out to the essential workers that have worked tirelessly through the pandemic to make sure everybody is safe and as healthy as they can be. So firefighters, first responders, doctors, nurses, EMTs, postal service workers, grocery store workers, retail workers. Like I said, anybody's been deemed essential. Shout out to you. Again, you're doing the work to make it so that a lot of us can stay as safe and as healthy as we can when we have to go to these essential places or get essential services. As a shout out to you. Like I said, it can be a very thankless job, especially at like grocery stores and like retail stores, and not everybody takes it as seriously as they should, depending on where you live. But like I said, if no one appreciates you, I do. So like I said, hopefully that helps you feel a little better. I know I'm just one person, but again, just know that your work is appreciated by a lot of people out there, even if you don't hear it every day. Also, you can shout out to FedEx, UPS, Amazon of the world, again, getting the packages out, relatively speaking, on time and within reason in terms of, like, again, we're within expectation, I should say. So you can shout out to them for, like, again, allowing people not to go to stores, pick things up, can allow to stay home and be as safe as they want to be getting their packages. Also, again, if you are able to go out to bars and restaurants still, tip your waiters, tip your waitresses, tip your bartenders nicely. Like I said, the service industry, like many industries, is going to be hit hard, and like many people, is going to be hit hard during this winter months. So again, while you still are allowed to go out to these places, just make sure you tip these people nicely if you have the means. I'm not telling you to go beyond your means, but if you have it, I imagine it'll be very appreciated by these workers in these restaurants and bars and things like that. Also, wear your mask. It's not that complicated. It's very safe. I mean, it was very simple, and it's the easy thing to do. Yeah, that'll do it for me today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.